Hello friends, and welcome to Extreme DX. It's a little cold today to do a radio review. I might do one later if it warms up enough. But for right now, I'm going to do a garage find restoration, a Simpson 260. An interesting pedigree with this unit. I had this one many decades ago, and I let somebody use it for 40 years and they were finished with it, so I got it back. So it's a little filthy, and I'm hoping it's just dust, but it may be a little oil mixed in, so we're going to find out. This is what I recommend for cleaning up dust in vintage electronics. Not an air compressor, not a dishwasher, not a sink, not a power washer. This is a proper tool for working on electronics. Why? Because it doesn't damage the electronics. Very effective, even with oil-soaked dust. You can clean out an entire vintage receiver in a matter of minutes with this, and you haven't bent any capacitor plates, you haven't ripped transistors off the board, you haven't ripped mica insulators out of the tuning capacitor. It's just the best way to go. Now this has got oil mixed with the dust. So I am going to have to take the plastic pieces, and only the plastic pieces, to the sink and rinse them off with Dawn dishwashing liquid. But only plastic or metal pieces, never entire PC boards. To open this, first you do the 4 screws on the back of the unit. They are flat and not Phillips. The inside of this is what the outside should look like. I may have to use a little automotive wax or something to shine this up. It was missing one screw, so I'm going to have to hunt up a replacement. I remember this unit many years ago. I replaced a fuse with a fuse holder. However, there's no documentation here about what wattage of fuse to use, what amperage of fuse, or what voltage it was. Also looks like I have repaired a couple of PC board traces. Probably somebody had allowed the battery to leak and get onto the PC board. It's hard to remember from 4 or 5 decades ago, but we'll give this one a shot. First thing I need to do though is get the handle off, and I just need to unscrew these. The base of the handle is not just plastic, it's got metal. So I am going to have to make sure this is dried very carefully. This is also an instance where an air compressor would be useful. Certainly not for electronics, but to make sure that the interior of this handle is absolutely dry. The PC board is mounted with screws here and here, and nuts here and here. Nuts have lock washers to compress against eyelets on the PC board. This is also the time when you remove the knobs from the front panel. And here they are with the knobs removed. Again, you can see just how nice the plastic should look. And we're going to see what we can do about restoring it. There are several wires connecting the PC board to front panel components and battery clips. So all of those are going to have to be desoldered. Make sure you document them carefully. This video can be used as documentation if you want. Where I can, I'm going to disconnect the wires, not by unsoldering them, but by simply prying the battery contact out of the case. Some of the battery contacts are in really rugged shape, and I'm going to have to treat them. The positioning of this brown wire is very important, so do not change it, just unsolder the wire. The board is flipped up, and I've only got 2 or 3 more connections to unsolder. And loose. The rotary switch will have to be cleaned So will the pots. The blue and the brown are either sides of this resistor that's formed by this piece of bus wire. Black bumblebee capacitor. This will have to be replaced. I should really remove these resistors, all of them, when I work on this. I have to take the C-springs off the front so I can clean this front panel without getting any of the electronics dirty. I have 2 battery clips in here that still need to be removed. So I'm not done yet with the front panel. It's certainly not ready to go for washing. The banana connectors I'm probably going to have to leave because they are compressed at the end where they insert through the chassis, or to the plastic, so they're going to have to stay, but I will dry them off very carefully. A battery clip here, one here, there's 2 on that wire, and there's one here on the black wire. I'm going to go ahead and desolder those because I'm going to treat them all as if they were bad. Compress these to remove. Don't pull them out. Removing the C-springs is very tricky. You have to compress the shaft from the back of the unit, and then you can get the C-spring off just as it clears above the plastic. Now remember that these rotary switches are formed by the case itself, which means the ball bearings are part of the assembly that's in the plastic. Be sure and note the position of your switch before you remove it, and don't lose these little balls whatever you do. It's a really good idea to clean out the solder from these banana connectors, because you're going to put in fresh when you reassemble. It'll just make reassembly that much easier. The meter is held by 4 screws in the corners. Need to be very careful, especially of these screws, when you're removing and replacing, because this is delicate. Here's the meter front panel, and here's the internal meter mechanism. I would like to advise that you place this in the middle, and the same with this little adjustment screw here, that you place it in the middle. You could just leave it without touching it, but this way you have a defined location where you know for sure that it will go back together. Glass is really dirty on this one, but I don't want to mess with these little clamps. This Bakelite plastic is decades old and very brittle, and I've already had one break while I've been working on it. So I'm just going to go ahead and clean this as an assembly. I temporarily laid the front panel of the meter assembly back on. I've got a very ticklish phase here. To remove the meter, you have to undo these nuts, and you can see there's not a lot of clearance around them. So I'm going to have to be very careful and do it with this fine needle nose. A couple of circular lock washers down in the holes. They'll fall out when I turn this over. Don't lose them. Here itself is still held in by these 2 flat screws on the top. It's not necessary to remove these 2 at the bottom unless you want to try to clean the display, but I wouldn't recommend it. And the meter just lifts out. As you can see, those 2 brass screws are just hanging by threads. You're going to have to be very careful in reinserting this assembly. And now we're down to bare plastic, as close as we can get. So now it's time to clean the plastic parts. We all like to see complete teardown shots, so here's mine. Plastic pieces, PC board. I've unsoldered the battery clips. They're about to get treated right in this tray. So, let's clean. A little baking soda water takes the green right off, but I wouldn't be surprised if I also have to treat these with white vinegar. A little Windex for the glass. I have to be very careful to get as far as I can into those corners because I don't want to leave the corners filthy. The Windex is also doing an amazing job on the Bakelite plastic. I have a friend whose specialty is Bakelite radios, but I wouldn't want to bother him for how he cleans them. And I put the knobs here in this little cavity. Remember to take the set screw out before washing this because you will rust the set screw if you don't. This stuff makes the plastic really pop. I'm going to see if I can find something to fill in the lettering on the front panel. After treatment with baking soda and white vinegar, these still are going to have to be buffed. Well, I ended up having to grind some of them rather than buff. I hate to do that, but the plating was compromised anyway by corrosion, so I'm no worse off. Bumblebee cap still measures, which is really lucky. It matches the markings, so replacement's easy since it's a common value. I found it was pretty easy to fish the screws through because they're on fairly long wires. There's no need to over tighten these little bolts here. But one thing I will mention, when you're doing this, you want to get the meter protected as soon as possible. So have them, before buttoning down the top for the last time, make certain that you can zero the meter with the little front adjustment screw. Good time to go ahead and just do it. So when you're putting these nuts back on the back of the meter, you need to pull up on these screws while you're doing it and turn them a little so that you make sure that it seats inside the cavity made for it in the meter compartment. This unit had been dropped and had a broken corner, so I used the baking soda and epoxy method to fill the crack and filed it down. I'm going to buff it off to make it a little smoother and then try to stain it black. Although if I can't, it's not too bad. It's not very noticeable. Okay, I've got it all soldered back together. Now we're going to do something about this fuse. Fortunately, I was able to find a manual. It's a simple 1 amp 250 volt fuse. Well, I didn't have a 0.1 microfarad 400 volt capacitor, but I had two 0.047 630 volt capacitors, so I put them in parallel and I get pretty close to 0.1 microfarad. And I increased the voltage rating. And so here you have it, a Simpson 260 reconditioned. You can test it with a battery and it displays 1.6 something, so it's good. And I've also tested some of the resistance scales, they're good. So one thing you notice that this one can do that the others can't, it's got a resistor times 1 scale, and you can zero the ohms. And look at the resolution here. You can measure resistors 2/10, 4/10, even maybe 1/10 of an ohm. Not with high accuracy like you could with one of the milliohm meter projects out there on the web, but you could definitely measure resistances beneath 1 ohm accurately because you can cancel out the resistance of these leads with the 0 ohms potentiometer. So if you enjoy these videos, click subscribe and click the bell to be notified when I post a new one.